Okay, so the first thing is just like onboarding. Um, Most of you have done like an initial session with me in terms of getting your resume in order. And then I think almost everyone who did that session, I think everybody with the exception of one person, I've gotten the resume back to you. And then in most cases, I've given you a couple of things to follow up on, like fill in some coursework or, give me a little bit more description over here, like that kind of thing. Once you have your resume back, the next thing to do is like update your LinkedIn. Okay, and again, like we'll go through like how to update your LinkedIn, things like that. But just for now, like before we get there, basically what you can do is just like I have a couple examples um, from the past class. Essentially, you can see like you basically take the updates we made to the resume and move them over to your LinkedIn. You want to do this stuff like there's a reason why I'm going through it day one, like the first minute. It's because as you start applying for jobs, right, this is the first way that people are going to see you. And the same thing, like as I start introducing you to people, like if I see relevant postings on Slack, things like that, like I'm going to Slack out your LinkedIn. All right. And so they're going to see it right away. This is the first impression they're going to get. And this is basically like how they're going to decide whether or not to, schedule an interview, etc. Okay. So like you certainly want to do that. Like you can see like, these were internships, but in general, what I recommend doing is just call yourself a data engineer, like consultant. Don't actually, like, I don't recommend using the word intern in there. And then the other thing, typically for here, I would recommend putting Jigsaw Labs, part of education. But we can go through it on an individual basis, but just some general overview. That's what I recommend doing. Ken also, I think, did a good job with his LinkedIn. So you can see, he actually is going to get brought on to a new position. And then, like, this is what he did. He did like an internship after the course, and then he was, data engineer, domain money, right? So, like, these were all, like, technically kind of, various levels of pay. Like, this was essentially free, but you don't have to advertise that, right? Like, we're trying to get through the first impression here. All right. So these things you want to do like today, tomorrow. Um, that way, like I said, like as opportunities come up, like you're in a good spot so that you can get those introductions. So that's the first thing is just like kind of think about is onboarding, right? Then from there, like this is basically ongoing, is like technical prep, right? So for there's two ways, two components of that. So one is just like the post-work sessions, where, like I said, we'll be doing just technical interview prep. Probably like is the majority of what we'll be doing. The other thing is open source contributions, right? So if you haven't gotten a LangChain contribution in there, get one. If you have and you're not doing an internship, get multiple, right? This goes into just like thinking about your funnel overall, is like building your resume, right? Then get past the resume screen so then you can get to, the behavioral and technical interviews. So, right, obviously we know like LangChain is a good thing. I've been looking more and more into OpenDevin as, a good repository to contribute to. So that's some, maybe in the future I'll be able to ramp up some of you on that. I discovered this other open source LLM repo, right? These are just good things to, make contributions to. All right. And then, so that's kind of one component. The other component to build your resume is just like the internship. So if you're able to continue on with your internship, I recommend continuing on with it, unless like you can talk with me on an individual basis if there's kind of, you feel like there's a good reason not to. But in general, that's the preference. And then the second thing is if like your internship ended and you're willing to do another one, let me know. Okay. Like literally in the past week, like, like a professor has like reached out to me about, pairing a student with an internship. Like there are various opportunities. And then if a couple students are looking for one, I'll reach out and we'll get other internship partners. And we'll find ones that are a good match for you. So that's just something like in general, if you're not working in a technical position currently, I absolutely recommend, that we should get you another internship if your current one finished. So you can kind of think of it as like this your technical ongoing work. And then the last component, which is very important, is like the behavioral component. Um, so there's a couple aspects to that. One is this service that we'll be using. I'll have you signed up. I'll get you invites for this next week. It's called Hunter. So with Hunter, essentially what you do is, it will be like a personalized job board or like application board for you. And then as you apply for jobs, say you apply on LinkedIn or Glassdoor, they have a Chrome extension, also like, Mozilla, whatever, like they have a web extension so that you just, click, basically like log that you applied for the job. It takes like one click, that's it. And then it will go to your job board and then you can see it, right? Like you can start to see like what you applied for. So you can see, right, we have, Sonia applied to various jobs, Chuma also applied to, various positions. You see they're using the extension, right? And so we can see that and, like help you manage your funnel in terms of what types of jobs should you be applying for? Are you applying to the right amount? Like why are you getting stuck here? And like diagnose it and help you fix it. And that's also, by the way, we built that into like the student employment contract, right? The student contract you sign. So like this is what for us to track that you're actually applying for jobs, right? Like this is how it counts. The other part is of course like career coaching. So at least initially we'll do weekly meetings. It might take a little, like a week or two to, get set up with everyone. That will be between, we'll divvy them up between me, Wayne, and Yu Chen, who's has been a career coach with us for a while, and she also does a lot of behind the scenes stuff for Jigsaw. Like I said, those will mainly be like weekly. For eventually, if appropriate, like we can move to once every 2 weeks. But what will those, like, why do we even do them? It helps with giving advice on like how to network, right? Like that happens on like how to tap into your network effectively requires pretty like high touch advice. It varies based on your location, based on like what you previously did, what school you went to, things like that, right? We've seen that it just takes a lot of, can benefit from some help. Behavioral interviews, and then just like how you're actually doing the reach out, how you're doing applications, how to prep for a specific interview or role that's coming up, right? Like all those things really matter. If you think that like the behavioral component is not important, no, you are 1,000% wrong. We have seen students that basically like had no prior technical experience get jobs almost immediately, and a big part of that is like they just happen to be very good at behavioral interviews, and kind of explaining how they are like good fits for a company, and we've also seen vice versa that it can help hold people back, but the truth is that like it can be also be coached pretty well. All right, so like that's a big reason why we invest time into career coaching is like telling your story and like how you're a fit for a company and like why you are interested in the job really matters. It does not matter you can be like, we've had PhDs before, like lots of PhDs, and like who's still like never had really like proper career coaching and got a lot of benefit out of it. All right, so like this stuff, I can't like emphasize enough. Like the biggest kind of challenges for us as a school is when people is when people kind of don't appreciate how important the behavioral component to finding a job is. All right, it is very important. They are hiring you, and they're going to be working with you for a while, ideally years. Like they absolutely care that you're invested in the company, that you can communicate well, that you're someone who's like passionate and professional. All right, so like those things all really matter. Cool. So this is we'll be going through this stuff. Like I said, we have like curriculum on it, and there's also obviously this one-on-one support. But I just wanted to give you an overview as to like, all right, how should you think about, like post graduation, onboarding, right? That's like step one, like get this stuff done. schedule a session with me. Then ongoing, right, you want to think about like technical, like working on kind of leak code stuff, doing either your internship open source, especially if you're not in a technical role, even if you are doing some open source for like these kinds of code bases, really valuable. And then, the internship, right? If you're currently not in a technical role, even if you are, we really recommend you do an internship. And if yours ended, like I said, we can help you try to find another one. So I put my Calendly here if you haven't scheduled, so you can just click on that and schedule some time with me. Cool. And then same kind of attendance requirements as I said before, like apply to these sessions. All right. If you like have a job or you're not job seeking, like that's fine. But like if you are aiming for a job, the only enforcement we can do is write the job guarantee. That's kind of, but also just like from a practical purpose, if you're looking for a job, basically everyone who has stuck with these post-graduation sessions has ended up getting a job with them. And then, like I said, like people who have not, some of them have gotten jobs and some of them have not. But like they've been very successful. Like this kind of approach has been really successful overall. All right, next thing. Oh, other questions. Yeah, this document so I'll publish it, and then it's right here. Oh, additional questions?
Jeff, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say big thanks for doing this in the first place. I feel like this isn't very common, but this is like a huge value to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, this is right, like from me having done like boot camps for so long and just seeing, like it just makes it makes sense. It's like you guys are all doing this stuff together, and like it's not just me sharing information, but like hopefully you guys will share each other information as well. Like that's one other thing I forgot to mention. Like as you get interviews, we'll be able to see it through Hunter, but also let me or let your career coach know. We can help you prep for them. Like I've been doing that. Like even if you just include like the Jigsaw experience, that's been 6 years for me now. I've gotten very good at like reading a job description, thinking about like the role, right, that like they're hiring you for, and then how to present that information, right? Like anticipating what kinds of questions they're going to be asking, and then telling you, okay, here's some resources to prep for it, right? And like you can then, one thing to do as you get these things is kind of like a bit of like just in time, learning, right? Like if you have an analytics engineer, here's this material to review. If it's, more LLM related, here's what there is to review, right? Like, so there's a bunch of, definitely let us know because we can help you prep for it. Next thing. Okay, so here's a list of upcoming topics. We can go through that in a little bit. And then Slack channels to join. All right. So Slack has been probably like, I did not necessarily like anticipate this, but this has probably been like our biggest source of like finding positions that otherwise, like we just couldn't get. Like more than, I've gone to like conferences, I've gone to like various meetups. Those things all can be super helpful. But just in terms of like, bang for your buck, Slack is enormous. So you can see here I published like a list of Slack channels that I recommend joining. They're sent more or less in like order or like some level of organization. So like the DBT one, that's super important. MLOps community, the Parsons Slack. This I think has more of like a liberal bent. I'm not quite sure. Locally optimistic. These are all kind of like Slacks to join. Data engineer things is another one, right? Like Prefect community is pretty good. Acquired FM, Progress Files. You have to apply to join this, but if you can look into it and then see if it's appropriate for you to join it. There's healthcare Slacks. So you may have like anticipated or heard like healthcare is like hiring a good amount of engineers as like data becomes more and more important, right? Obviously, there's just a lot of applications to that. So like the Tuva project Slack, this is a good Slack to join. CodeRx, I just saw like literally like a junior level position listed there today. And then I also just have like a list. This I just added in is a list of other healthcare communities for you to look at. All right, but these, and then there's paid Slacks. Paid Slacks I think are very much worth it. I pay for these two. Health Tech Nerds is $20 a month. There are like really good positions there if you have a health tech background, or even if you don't. I recommend it. I've gotten a lot of leads from there. A lot of our internship partners came from there. Friends of Lenny is also very good. They're more product, but they hire, these product people hire engineers. And both of these will also post like various like meetups and things like that. And then finally, like regional Slacks, right? So like based on the location you're in, you'll still see both job postings and events. Both are very worth, going to. All right. And then of course, if you're underrepresented in tech, like you want to use the resources that you can, right? So like, female non-binary, these are different communities to join or look into, right? Diversify tech. This organization, breakline.org, they've helped some students in the past for like, underrepresented communities, Latinx, right? Black in Tech, these are great organizations. And then the other thing, just some general advice is like, if you go to like, just like GitHub, it's like, how do I find these types of things? And then let's say, where's the one for like Open Devon, right? So this one I know, obviously. You can see like they have a Slack channel, right? It's like, I just like on the Slack channel, like today, like connected with like CEO of an LLM startup. We're going to talk next week. All right. So it's like these like small communities, like why is he willing to talk to me? Just because I'm on the Slack channel and he knows that this is like obscure enough that if I'm on the Slack channel, I probably, am a little bit deeper into this topic than probably 99% of people. So that's what it takes is like joining these kind of Slack channels. You just join them. If they're not useful, then you unsubscribe. And then just like in terms of what it looks like, let me stop sharing for a second. So for the DBT Slack, just to give you an example. So basically what you want to do is if you go to channels and then you go to manage, then you can go to browse channels, right? And you want to look for, so there's a couple things. One, you can look for just most members. If you're not sure kind of what, you're looking for the jobs channel, but it's not always called jobs. So you can just sort by most members. So again, to do that, let's say you go to this, go to the Slack, click on channels, click on manage, click on browse channels. All right. And then from there, you can click on like most members, or you can just search for jobs. But for some of them, like for instance, like the locally optimistic one, you can see it's called looking for staff, right? And then the other thing is you find a job, we'll go through exactly how to reach out, but let's say, you're interested, you want to apply, you want to message the person like that day. The other thing you want to do is this is bad. I'm interested. Can you tell me more? Like that's not a good message. All right. What you want to do is basically read the description, and we'll have a lesson on how to do this. But if you get started in the meantime, what I would do is there's a couple things. One is read the description, right? I'm looking to see like what is unique about the position that they're listing. All right. So this is a data analyst position, right? Product. So I know already it's different than just a typical data analyst position. Supported building maintenance of comprehensive internal analytics systems to cover all business departments so stakeholders can quickly access the data metrics. So what does this feel like? It feels kind of like an analytics engineering position. Like my guess is would involve like DBT, some dashboarding, things like that. It doesn't have to, but that's just my guess so far. Ad hoc analysis, right? So data exploration, curiosity, knowledgeable user of Coefficient. I think that might be the company. And then steward, right? Data cleanliness, things like that. So, and always seek to automate. So this is kind of like this entrepreneurial kind of spirit type of thing. And now here comes, right, the actual descriptions of like the tech tools they use. So data visualization, SQL, right? So it does feel Amplitude, right, which is like a dashboarding tool, slash like marketing analytics tool. So it does start to feel like that kind of thing. I would maybe like Google some of these keywords if I didn't know. And then what I would do is indicate, right, like, hey, like just saw the position, think that I may be a good fit, right? Like, and then say, here's why, I just finished working for like an LLM startup where I had to develop dashboards for them, and had, come from a business background where I frequently wrote SQL queries, etc. Right? What you're trying to do is find what's unique about the position and match that with like your unique background. Okay, so that's like, oh, I don't normally do this, but like this is a perfect fit. Like this is a great match for me. Like that's kind of what you're trying to do. And that's been, it's not always going to be like you're not going to get a reply every time, but maybe 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5, a half, like that's fairly realistic. All right. But again, like you kind of have to monitor this stuff daily. So if you just set up some time, like let's say you do it over your lunch break every day, you just scan through these, all right, that's a good way to do it. All right, because you want to write back to them pretty quickly before they get just too many replies. And then you can see, here's how you fill in, right, because I have the Chrome extension with Hunter. And then you can just log this and also apply, right, and message this guy. So that's the kind of thing, right, that you want to do. You wouldn't do it for all of them, right? Like I probably wouldn't recommend you applying for like the head of data role. But like as you see kind of the like junior, mid-level engineering positions, those are the types of things you want to apply for. So for each one of these, right, I tried to put the link of like how do you join the Slack channel, right? Join the DBT community. Definitely, I would say like I can give you time to do it, but like it's important you want to join like as many of these as are appropriate. All right. Towards the bottom, I put newsletters. These newsletters also oftentimes, I'll try to add some more. They oftentimes have positions that are listed, like weekly, and also are kind of like obscure. And then other things is, these are like different, remote office hours that you can join. Okay. So this thing is pretty good. You can meet up with various tech people. It's Intros Club. Even if you're not in NYC, it doesn't matter. You can join it. Data Engineering Mentors. This is quite good. So this is from, oh, damn, they deleted it. Those bastards. Maybe we'll find another way. They had like a list of Calendlies of data engineers that you could, join and talk to. Startup ladies, right? If you're female, then these office hours are quite good. So these are just ways that you can like talk to people one-on-one, and those are really good to know. And then in-person meetups, right? Things to go to, and then like career fairs. Again, like we can go deeper into like how to do networking and things like that, but I just wanted to share these resources off the bat. Cool. And then here's job boards. We can share them as well. So the job boards, obviously, like you guys know, like LinkedIn and Indeed, but just other things to know about is, right, like simplify.jobs is a way just to autocomplete, right? You can, because it asks you like, what's your name and your address and etc. Right? This allows you to do it once and then fill it out. Here's like various cover letter templates. Or like, I've just put different like typical Slacks, okay? Things that you can, if you have to write a cover letter, etc. In general with the cover letters, I recommend just like being like the same kind of technique of like, why are you a match? Like I don't recommend doing something generic. You do want to explain like, here's why I genuinely think I'm a good fit. All right. And then on the job boards, you can see one good thing to do. Right, we're trying to find like job boards where people are not you're not gonna like have as much competition as typical, as opposed to like LinkedIn where there's normally a lot. So one thing that you can do is, here's like various job boards, right? You can plug this into Google and then search for the words like analytics engineer and data engineer. So, right, if you just plug that into Google, then right here it is, like on Greenhouse, right? So you can see this. This is a good way to find various positions that maybe are not directly on LinkedIn. Okay, same thing for the other one. Look for Notion job listings, right? That's pretty obscure. Now, one thing bad about this is they might be a little out of date, but you could find some like Notion listings that typically are just listed on Slack channels, but you can search for them. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just looking for these keywords anywhere on the site that ends with notion.site. Okay, and then I just included some other good, fairly obscure job sites. All right. Cool. Okay, so I don't want, just to do like I said, we'll like spread this information out over time, but this can get you started. I'll get you the Hunter invites by like early next week. And then if you want, you can look at like, we can talk about this next week too, but and we did actually deploy these lessons before, but I'll redeploy them. So you can look at these like on your own time, and we can talk about them more next week. Okay, a couple questions. So what's the feeling about applying via LinkedIn, for example, versus finding a listing there and then navigating directly to the company's career page and applying there? Yeah, so I do recommend that technique of like, if you go find a LinkedIn job, that then you directly get data engineer, right? That then you directly look for it on that company's site, right? So you can apply to both, but you can see like pretty quickly in 3 hours there's over 100 applicants. So you definitely want to, like go to the site as well and do an application. Yeah, so I do recommend doing that. And then you can even message the person or message someone on the team if you can find them. And especially like you kind of have to decide how to allocate your time. But if you think you're a good fit and like you really have a shot at the job, it's worth doing that. Other questions? Hold on. Yeah. Are these job boards commonly used by Canadian orgs as well? I think so, but I'm not. I would think they're worth looking at. Probably yes for some and no maybe for others. But a lot of the Slack channels like DBT, MLOps, I will see like Canadian listings there. Oh, how do you? Oh, it's not the elephant in the room. How do I navigate the experience gap? I would say like anything 3 or 4 years, and under is fine. Like you can. I mean, if it's 5 years, that would only be if you were like an engineer someplace, right? But like it's another thing that you can think through, like what's the level of experience required. So in general, in terms of seniority, it's like, you can think of like data analyst, analytics engineer, right? Is a little more tricky. Then would come like data engineer, right? And then slash like backend engineer, right? And then cloud engineer are all those at all those same levels. So any data analyst, analytics engineer, as long as it doesn't say like senior or like staff level, you're probably okay to at least to like apply. Data engineer is going to be a tougher get. So there you're looking at like certainly like 1 to 2 years experience, you're fine. Like 3 years will be tougher, but you just want to make the case. Like I would still recommend you all for like 3 years. 5 years is unless you have prior technical, but a lot of you do have prior technical experience, but right, that's going to be a harder get. But anything like 3 years or below is fine. And you'll get like I said, like you'll, depending on how you pitch yourself, and we'll work with you on doing that, right? Like you can get those positions. Like they're like kind of, as other people have pointed out, there's no such thing as a LLM engineer with 5 years experience, right? That does not exist, right? So like you guys have, a lot of you have worked with like pretty modern workflows that other people haven't. DBT, even though like we all learned it like 4 months ago, it seems pretty commonplace. That's not something that, right, like like a lot of people know. So just emphasize, you'll get a lot of, movement by just emphasizing, hey, this is, what I know. Here's what I've contributed to. Hey, I've made contributions to, I'm really passionate about this. I made contributions to LangChain if it's an LLM type position, right? Like the pitch really can matter. Like we were able to get, like I got like I was able to like recommend someone. He got into the final round last semester, basically like a fresh college grad for like a senior level position, right? Like it doesn't happen every time, but if you pitch it properly and you like, if I believe that person's a good fit for the job, I'll recommend them, and because it can work out. Yeah, it's true. Like every job listing will, yeah, that's another, what David said is exactly right. You do not need to check off each thing on the box for the job posting. What I recommend doing is, again, you're looking for like what is unique about the posting, and does that match like your skill set, like your background? Like, can you make a case for that? If the answer is yes, like tell them, right? Tell them. Cool. But it does take thought. Like I'll like think about, like I want to, you don't want to just fire off like a message carelessly, like that. You're going to get what you put in, get out of it what you put into it. They're just going to be like, all right, you don't want to seem, then if you do that, it's spam effectively. You're just bothering the person. You're not actually applying. Cool. Okay, so let's actually do the quiz, the Python quiz, what you're all here for. Let me send that over. And I can put in the Slack channel if you're not yet in here. And we'll do a SQL one probably on Tuesday. So this will just give us, it'll be a good review for you. It's been a little while, right, since we've done like purely Python. You can see what it is. It's just like downloading a data set, doing kind of some of the work that we've done in the very beginning, which is, filtering and mapping, right? Like writing these methods, selecting certain attributes. It's like a good review of that, like initial components that we did early on. All right. So I'll put this in the Slack. It's also deployed right here. If I think you should be able to finish it in time. If you don't, you can send it to me afterwards, and I'll put in like a Google form also as